One of the things that I think a lot of people don't know, but in foster care, 7 is considered old. And so that is the kind of the age where we see less placement options. People say, oh, they're over a certain age, we're not going to open our home.
Right.
But I know, having I have a 14, a 12, and a 9-year-old. 7 is still a baby.
Yeah,
A baby.
100%.
What has been broken in relationship can only be healed in relationship.
Right.
And so our heart is that people would know the names, know the faces, not just of kids in care, but that kids in care would have the ability to know the names and faces of their neighbors too. One of the most meaningful things in life is to know that your life mattered for something, right? Whether you're a believer or not, that my time on this earth mattered. And so apart from the work that I do at Hope 1312 Collective, just my heart is that people would connect with something meaningful in their life.
Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Executive Experience. I'm your host, Jamey Johnson, and I'm here today with Ally Christianson. Wrong button there, but Ally Christianson with Hope 1312 Collective. Ally, thank you for coming here today and
For sure.
for being one of my first guests on the podcast. I'd like to start off just by introducing yourself and maybe telling a little bit about your organization.
For
You
sure.
Start off there.
Yeah. So I'm Ally Christianson. Thank you so much for having me. I have the privilege of leading the Hope 1312 Collective, where we seek to enable the church and the community to enter the story of child welfare. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and my specialty is childhood trauma. So sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good background for what you're doing now,
Yes.
sure. So you're the founder of 1312 Collective. What led you to want to do that?
Yeah. Well, Jamey, I had served as a clinician, a therapist in this area of South Georgia, Waycross, Jessup, Brunswick for years, seeing kids that were either in the foster care system or about to be in the foster care system. And I just wasn't seeing them get any better.
Right.
And so I think for all of us, there's this kind of journey in our professional or faith life where we go okay, there's got to be more than what currently is.
Yeah.
And just in that seeking process, I felt like God really showed me the potential and the resource that is his church and how we could connect the church with those most in need that I was seeing on a daily basis.
Right. Well, what were some of the things that you were seeing that was lacking?
I think just knowing so many well-intended people that wanted their life to have value and purpose, that maybe even had resources, be it financial or otherwise, and then also just knowing that those people existed in the church and the call that we have as Christians to serve, the most vulnerable among us, but then daily seeing those kids that nobody really knew about, and just realizing that you can't do anything about something you don't know about. And so just wanting to kind of bring awareness and connect the two realities that live in our community.
Gotcha. Well, what are the core services that y'all provide?
Yeah. So a lot of what we were just talking about this yesterday, if you kind of think about like a trellis, a lot of what we do at Hope 1312 Collective is we provide that trellis, that structure for churches, community members, individuals, businesses that would say, hey, I do care about the most vulnerable children in my community. Show me how to do that in a way that's actually effective, that actually meets real needs versus what I might perceive to be the needs.
Right.
And so we do a lot of trying to find evidence-based programs, things like our care portal technology, where caseworkers can enter actual needs of families and community members can get those resources. Or we have a therapeutic summer camp where people in the community serve as counselors that then mentor kids throughout the year.
Right.
Just various ways for people to connect relationally.
So y'all work with the foster care system kind of side by side.
Yes.
That's really unique. How did you, I guess, just through your experience, I guess, in the real world working with those people, that's how you got those connections? And
yeah, Jamey, I think, it's such a interesting, I think it's a really sacred territory when we can come alongside as a faith-based community with the state.
That's right.
But I see such potential. We are a third-party organization, so we don't take any state or federal funds so that we can come along truly open-handed with the state. We don't depend on them to feed us so that we could say, hey, what might it be like if you had this resource or we did things this way? And so I think over the years, it has taken a lot of time
Yeah.
to build rapport and trust. But I do see it as just such sacred territory because just yesterday we had the Department of Family and Children's Services and local pastors all in a lunch together saying,
Wow.
how can we do better for the children that we all serve?
That's amazing. You don't normally see those two worlds collide.
No.
You know, separate of church and state, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's a special deal. And
It is.
and that's honestly one of the when I was doing my research, looking into this, and I know you a little bit
Yeah.
about. I've heard your story before, but that was the most unique part of kind of the thing. Y'all are. It's a special thing when you get to bring God into those children's lives in the foster care systems that wouldn't normally see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I think that that's been such a neat part of our work is, God's going to do what he's going to do. And so when we as the people of God show up in the darkest places, like there can only be light and people are drawn to that light. And so I think even at the state level, yes, there's boundaries and things that we operate under, but ultimately when they experience hope, you want more of that.
That's
it's
right.
just natural. So,
That's right.
yeah.
Now, is that the foster care community in this area? How big of a need is it for somebody that doesn't know anything about it?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that because
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of people that have no idea. We currently only have about 20 foster homes in our community just here in Glenn County. So about 80% of the kids that come into foster care have to be sent to other communities, which I tell people as believers we should care about that. But as taxpayers, as business owners, we should definitely care about that because it's costing the state a lot of money to keep those situations and cases going. But also we know statistically that when you grow up in foster care in a certain community, you always return back a large percentage. I think it's like 90-something% of kids return to their community of origin. So we want them here in their community healing and getting better here.
Yeah, and helping others and when they get older and kind of
Yes.
learning from them and that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's a lot bigger problem than what people think, and we don't have the resources here, is what you're saying, to house people.
Yeah.
So is that orphanage people are going to? Is it other foster care houses, or what is that?
So in the state of Georgia, there's foster homes. There's those are people that are licensed to open their homes. There's also like fictive kin people that step up that have relationships with children. These are kind of really special stories. The school nurse or a teacher from third grade or somebody from the church that would say, no, we're not blood relative, but I know this child's in crisis and I would like for them to be considered in my home.
Right.
There's kinship placement, so other distant relatives. But then there also are a lot of group homes. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know, I know we both have younger elementary school age, middle school age kids, but in foster care, 7 is considered old. And so that is the kind of the age where we see less placement options. People say, oh, they're over a certain age, we're not going to open our home.
Right.
But I know, having I have a 14, a 12, and a 9-year-old. 7 is still a baby.
Yeah,
a baby.
100%.
Yeah. And so a lot of times kids that are over that age are part of a sibling set will get sent to kind of like residential treatment, a shelter environment.
Okay.
And that's just not the same as a family.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No.
So do y'all help with the actual help people get prepared to be a foster parent, or give you the skills, I guess, that you will need to help others?
Yeah, so, we're not a child placing agency, meaning
Right.
that we don't actually place the children, but we tell people if that's something that God has placed on your heart, we train families, we walk with them, we support the heck out of them, and not just foster families, but biological families that are really trying to keep it together.
Right.
Because we know that foster care should be the last resort for kids. If we can walk alongside your mama and your daddy, that is one thing that I've learned in this work. The love of a biological parent is never up for grabs.
Yeah.
I don't care how addicted you are or what your story has been or how much poverty you have. That love was never up for grabs.
Yeah.
That love can never be replaced. And so when we can wrap around families to create where the kids don't have to be removed, then we want to do everything we can in those situations.
It's best when the parents can step
Absolutely.
up and either better themselves or get to a place where they can
Yes.
help. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just shocking what you just said. 7 years old is considered old. I mean, I guess from somebody that doesn't know much about it, people want babies, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's tough. But at 7, that's still a baby.
No, I know.
That still is. I
Yeah.
got mine are 13 and 10, and I couldn't imagine, 7, anyway.
No, I
Man.
know. It's hard to think about.
Well, something just popped in my mind thinking about my stepchildren. Is there a large amount of special needs children in the foster care community?
So one of the things that's really interesting, Jamey, is that oftentimes kids that have been through trauma have a lot of sensory needs. So actually in this area of the state, we see a really high diagnosis rate of kids that are within the foster care system that have been deemed that they're somewhere on the spectrum.
Right.
And so that's a high level of need, and that can cause people to think, oh gosh, I can't be equipped to care for this child. But the reality is that, and you know this from the work of your family, those resources are really hard to come by.
Yeah.
But if we can know that a lot of those sensory needs come from trauma-informed care is way easier, way less restrictive as far as insurance and all that stuff than a pure autism diagnosis. And so a lot of the work that we're doing now is trying to create trauma responsive communities to say, this is what trauma looks like. And yes, you might see this sensory profile or needs in a child, but that doesn't mean that we need to go a full-fledged, we need all these services. What would it look like for the school teacher to understand trauma, for the school to be able to meet sensory needs and help with regulation? And that is a challenge.
Absolutely. Working in, yes.
Yes.
I have a lot of family experience with that, and a wife who fights that battle on a daily basis.
She is an advocate as an advocate can be. So
she is. And I think from her point of view is kind of like you said, maybe just if the teachers had the education, just a little bit of ABA or some kind of sensory, just understanding of what they need.
Yes, absolutely.
That could be awesome. And I'm sure that's just magnified in what y'all do. I mean, with the kids
we've
y'all
been
deal
working with the college here, the College of Coastal Georgia, just to train the teachers that are going out in the community.
Right.
And what it would look like to have a classroom built on those kind of principles, because all kids are going to benefit from that.
Absolutely.
And so, it's a long-term goal, but we're gonna keep at it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
What would you consider is the toughest issue that you face?
Oh gosh. Jamey, a few years ago, I probably, obviously I started this work, one from what God had done in my own story, but then a longing that I saw for the kids that I was serving that were in the system. But over the past few years, I'd have to say the hardest thing, the most challenging thing is kind of this transactional relationship that people, it's just more comfortable. So like when we are inviting the church and people to do something about this crisis, just the transactional nature of our society. So it's very easy. We are not without resource in this community for people to drop off a gift card or make a donation. And please hear me, those things have changed lives for sure. But ultimately, what I know is that what has been broken in relationship can only be healed in relationship.
Right.
And so our heart is that people would know the names, know the faces, not just of kids in care, but that kids in care would have the ability to know the names and faces of their neighbors too. We live in a pretty small community. Yeah. There's no reason that it should be as divided and siloed as it is.
Right.
And I've seen God do the most beautiful, when I tell you miraculous things, when people have walked into, really into the story of the children and families that we serve. Things that we could have never, strategized around as an organization or said, these are our goals for this year. But when people have entered into relationship, but God has to call you to that,
Yeah. Now, for somebody thinking of, instead of just writing a check, volunteering, what kind of time commitment do y'all require? I mean, you talking a couple hours a month, a couple hours a week? What are y'all looking for? Or does it matter?
No, that's great. Yeah, that trellis that I was talking about of programs, we've really tried to be intentional that there are ways that we just say put your toe in the water, right? So, hosting, we have a support group for foster care survivors, right? That meets at our office, people that have gone through foster care that are now trying to raise their kids and not have them enter into the system.
Yeah.
But to come and to make cookies and welcome those women and men and here's some coffee, right? And just love on them, get to know their name before the support group starts. So that's a monthly what 1 hour commitment.
Yeah.
We have this thing called care communities that's really beautiful, where families can be connected with another family. And so you just make one meal a month with a group of people that you're already connected with. So maybe it's your neighborhood or people that you work with, and you say, you know what, we're going to kind of sponsor this foster family, but it looks a lot more like relationally. So your kids
Yeah.
get to know those kids, and that kind of a thing is beautiful. And then, of course, we love it when people from the community will serve at our summer camp.
Yep.
Those are those lasting relationships, those surrogate roles where we might not be able to find you a forever family, but like, you know that Mr. So-and-so is in your corner and he loves you as close to like a father could in this time.
I tell you, that's, the camp is,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that I ever learned about y'all.
Yeah.
And I know myself, I in my mind, I wanted to jump in and I wanted to do it. And I guess I got busy and just one thing happens after another. But
Right.
that place seems like a very special event every year that y'all
Oh
put
my
on.
gosh. Yeah. It's like the best, hardest week
Yeah.
of the year.
Right.
But when you just have felt those experiences, like this mattered, and you knew that you were doing something bigger and beyond yourself, even though it's hard, like people come back.
Right. What can you go through maybe a day in the life of that camp?
Oh
Like,
my
what do y'all
gosh,
do there?
So it's called Royal Family Kids Camp, and it's all about kind of redeeming the idea of family.
Right.
And so we're really strategic. Yes, it's trauma informed, but it's all about you have a one-on-one mentor that's with you. Most of these kids have never had somebody in their life that wasn't paid to be there.
Right.
And so one of the first things we say is like, everybody here is a volunteer. Actually, some of them took off work. Like, they're not going on vacation with their family this year because they chose to be here with you. And they're like, wait, what? It just blows their mind.
Yeah.
And all throughout the week, we have like surrogate grandma and grandpa and auntie and uncle, and we sit family style, and you're in a pod, a cabin with, like cousins kind of a deal. And
Yeah.
just kind of putting that picture of what family looks like. And one of my favorite parts, a lot of it looks like just traditional summer camp with swimming, and kids learn to swim and ride a bike for the first time. And it's all about trying new experiences. But every night there's a surprise. And those surprises are put on by the community from local businesses that sponsor them. And they're things like Christmas in July. So we know that a lot of kids have come into foster care around Christmas time, and domestic violence spikes, substance abuse spikes. So those memories are not really great for kids that have had trauma.
Yep.
But we watch God redeem what that looks like. So you hear the same songs, you see inflatables, you decorate cookies, but it's in a safe environment. And God begins to say, no, this is all that you've known, but this is what could be, what I have for you. We even have, fake snow, right? So you talk about sensory experiences.
Yeah.
And
Giving those kids something they've never experienced before.
Yes,
Man,
yeah.
I bet that is an awesome
it's real
experience. We call those in my family core memories.
Yes.
Core memories that, you hold on to and you come back to. And when you don't, and we all have those from growing up, right? I guess, most of us do, I guess. And, it's to think about the kids that don't get to have those or have those great experiences. I know what you're doing definitely probably is changing their lives.
Yeah, well, we, that's the goal. We just set the stage and God does his thing.
That's
But we're about 7 years in as an organization, and we're starting to see that next generation. So that's exciting.
So y'all have actually had some people graduate, I guess, and move on and that kind of thing. That's, and seeing what they do and how they're growing.
Yeah. This will be the first year that our first babies that came to camp at age 6 are now graduating high school.
Oh, wow.
So we're really trying to be intentional as an organization. What does that look like? But they're still calling, texting, it really is a family. So it's been a beautiful thing to watch.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you, if someone wanted to help you in any way, what would you recommend them doing?
Jamey, a lot of times we say, what are the things that you're already good at? What are the resources that you have around you? Like y'all did. I mean, right before I came here, I was copying manuals over for a training that we're doing off the copier that you all so graciously set up for us. And, it can be things like that, to raising awareness, to saying as a business, we have a foster friendly app. So what does it look like to get on that app and say, foster families or businesses that engage in this work, you get this kind of a discount. So much of that is just feeling seen, like your community is behind you.
Right.
We also have our Festival of the Trees coming up, which is a great fundraiser and event. So just coming out, you'll hear more about what God's doing and get to support the efforts.
That was something I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
I did see that. Can you go? When is the Festival of Trees?
Yes,
Is that
Festival of Trees. So, Hope 13:12 comes from a verse in Proverbs that says, when hope is deferred, it makes a heart sick. But that verse goes on to say, but when longings are fulfilled, there's a tree of life. Yep. So this is the Festival of the Trees. So you'll see your businesses can sponsor the trees, families, but they'll be decorated and auctioned off at the event. It's super, super fun. December the 5th. Down at the Queen and Grant downtown.
Yeah.
It's a fun reason to just get like in festive gear, and then you can win a tree. And oh my gosh, people go all out.
Sounds like a great holiday party
fun.
too.
Yeah.
So to have a good time and support a great cause.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What is your future outlook? What are your plans for the future?
Yeah. Our big goal would be that the church would be the church for the least of these. That children in foster care would be cared for by their local church, that families in crisis would be cared for by the local church. That is a long-range plan. I don't know that I'll ever live to see that fully happen here, but I think that increasingly more we want to see authentic relationships developed across sectors. I would love, for Glenn County, for Camden County, for McIntosh County to be a place that if I was in foster care or within the DFAC system, that I was cared for well by my community,
right?
That I was not in need during that traumatic time because the community and the church knew about my need. I would love to see more of those testimonies come out of our community.
Everybody working together.
Yeah.
What do you think holds that back? Is it just the normal bureaucracy and everybody got their own plan or whatever? Or is it just people don't know about each other?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just that connection piece, And so we work really hard to be kind of that liaison between not only the church and the kids in care, but, between the state, between juvenile court, between the school system, that that you have an advocate and a liaison kind of connecting the pieces of the puzzle, because we're all busy in the trenches, right?
Absolutely.
I've never met somebody that said, you know what, those kids, their families, they don't matter.
Yeah.
It's not because of ill intent. I think a lot of times it's just that connectivity piece that's missing.
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And a lot of times there's things happening right next door that we got a blind eye to.
Yep.
Let's back up just real quick. I think you said something along the lines of, your journey before you got here. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that sticks out to you that pushed you this way, that kind of that called you to do this?
Yeah. Early on in my own personal story, we say often, I think you just mentioned it, but we do what we know. And when we know better, we do better.
Right.
My family had their own struggles growing up, but the difference was that we had resource and we had connection. A lot of the times when I felt voiceless and hopeless, there were still people that entered my story in a meaningful way that changed the trajectory, most of them being from the church.
Right.
And so I think it was that experience, as well as just seeing God alone through Jesus be my healer from my own trauma history. Like, everybody deserves the opportunity to know him as their healer.
Absolutely.
But we have to know that there are children in need of that, and to not turn a blind eye, and to have the tools to do that in a way that enters in and that's evidence-based. And so I think just wanting to learn throughout my journey made me want to have those resources to give to other people and allow the church to be the church, I think was the other part. I had been a part of lots of faith-based congregations and communities where there were just action of based off perceived need. Like, surely these kids need more backpacks or jackets. And it's like, no, that's not the longing of their heart.
Yeah.
And so wanting to be that connection for people.
What you're talking is speaking to me. I'm real quick to, and I feel it makes me, I feel up at Christmas time. I love to take toys to different organizations and do those types of things, but I'm kind of calling me a little bit. Maybe I need to step up a little bit and do some things. So, but what is the one thing you would like people to take away from this podcast? If you could get anybody that's listening, what is the message you'd like for them to hear?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of your audience. I think that one of the most meaningful things in life is to know that your life mattered for something, right? Whether you're a believer or not, that my time on this earth mattered. And so I, apart from the work that I do at Hope 13:12 Collective, just my heart is that people would connect with something meaningful in their life. And so just that there's opportunity, I think, if you're in a place where you're going just kind of stuck in this rut, my family or my business or in my faith, connect with us. Like, let us help you connect with something that could really change the trajectory of your life and those that we serve.
Put something above yourself, you know,
Yeah.
and live for, do things that glorify God.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, absolutely. Ally, thank you so much for
Yeah,
being
thank
on
you,
today.
Jamey.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything that we missed or?
I don't think so. Just thank you for this opportunity. We don't do a whole lot of like marketing, we're just doing the thing. And so I appreciate the opportunity to tell what God's doing.
Absolutely. And how could people get in touch with you or help you and reach out to you
Yeah.
and get involved?
Our website or Instagram, Facebook, all of those things, we're a really small organization. So it'll probably come to me or one of our team pretty
And that's
quickly.
Hope1312
CO.
co.org.
That's right.
Yep. Hope1312co.org.
That's right.
Well, Ally, thank you so much for
Thanks,
coming
Jamey.
on. I appreciate it. That's the end of this episode of the Southern Executive Experience. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day.